taking forever. All right.
All of his stuff looked good, so probably too good because it was probably snug, but he was different in everything that he did. He locked up different. He locked up snug.
Hey, this is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to Snug Wrestling. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back again to another episode of Snug Wrestling Podcast with me, your host. My name is Edgar. We're going to be going over Bad Blood, the PLE that we saw last night. Was Bad Blood bad, or was it good Bad Blood? We're going to be going over that. And to help me, Richi Mars is back on the show. What's going on, Richie? How you doing?
Doing well, man. Thank you for having me on again. I'm excited to be on here and talk about Bad Blood. It was a fun show, as usually these WWE, AEW pay-per-views, PLEs, whatever you want to call them are. So I'm excited to talk about it.
Okay, so you are one of the ones that enjoyed it because there's been a lot of mixed reviews ever since, the PLE went down. And even before the PLE even started, it seemed like there were some people that were even kind of like boycotting the PLE.
Boycotting?
Yeah, like some people were because of the whole thing that WWE, they haven't had black presentation in like the last 3 PLEs. Some people were like, yeah, I'm not gonna watch that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, interesting. I mean, first of all, Richie, what is your opinion on that whole debate? Because there's a lot of reporting that has gone into, there's no black people on the PLEs, and why isn't there black people in the PLEs? So what do you like? What's your thought on that? If you have any thoughts about that first.
I don't think I'm the right person to talk about whether or not it's a talking point, just because I don't think that's my position to talk on and put into other people's mouths on how to do it. If you want to talk about what Triple H said, I thought it's always like a race between him and Tony Khan on who could make themselves look bad at these pressers. And I feel like it's at a point where it's maybe some PR training might be necessary for some of these things. But again, it just kind of depends on what people are actually feeling within the product at the time. Now, you could have that opinion, or you could think that opinion is overblown, but at the end of the day, it's kind of like what you see in wrestling. Now, if Triple H would address it saying hey, we're working on it or this, then people would say, oh, he's only working on it now that it's being brought up to the attention. And I feel like there's a lot of talented people that deserve more shine, and just kind of have to depends on where it goes. I always say it's not my company, not my rules. So again, if the talent feels like they're being snubbed, then that's a serious discussion that they have to have with the man up top. Shout
out to Not Legacy. Thank you for the gift. I know we said we're going to talk about Bad Blood, and I didn't mean to catch you off guard with that question. There's a reason why I brought this up. I actually have the clip of thank you for the follow, Not Legacy. I actually have the clip of Triple H answering the question, because the question was brought up at the press conference about that, and I thought it was really interesting. So I'm going to play the video again for the people that haven't seen it. This was from the press conference at Bad Blood right after the PLE.
The soapbox run the ropes. There's been some reports leading up to Bad Blood regarding the representation of black male wrestlers within WWE. They haven't been on a PLE in the last 3 cards. There was no black male wrestlers on the Bad Blood card. How do you gauge between making sure that there's representation and making sure that there are wrestlers that get opportunities that are deserved?
I see everybody gets the opportunity. Like if I don't see the difference in anybody, I don't see the color, I don't see the nationality, I don't see any of it. I just see talent. I don't see the difference between men and women. I see talent. We tell stories with those talent, how they can handle those stories and how they can represent those stories and how we can bring those stories forward. So, I don't keep track of any of that. I do what's relevant and what is best in the best in storytelling and what's being delivered the best. And then that's what goes. No different than, the men and the women who main events, whatever the biggest stories are. That's where we go.
Next question here.
Whoa. Okay. Shout out to whoever asked that question, because sometimes I feel like they don't ask good enough questions. Sometimes it's usually like, hey, how do you feel about being a champion? What does this mean to you? No, this guy came out guns blazing, as they say. But before we move forward, Richie, what were your thoughts on Triple H's response about this very sensitive matter?
I mean, it's always like a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation when it comes to questions like these. It's either you're gonna answer like no answer is ever going to be good enough with a sensitive topic like that. So it's going to upset a group or majority of people trying to address like something as sensitive as that. I think Triple H should probably be more aware on what's going on. If the reports are true that he goes through Twitter to see like how everything's going, then I suggest him to do that. But again, not my company. Not really my a deal. But again, I feel like everyone should get a fair and balanced opportunity to showcase themselves on a global stage in WWE. And again, it's up to the certain people in charge to give that platform fairly.
Shout out to Real. Thank you for the follow, Real. Well, since we're talking about what happened after the PLE, there is another incident that is going viral right now in the IWC that happened after Bad Blood. Cody Rhodes got jumped. Well, he didn't get jumped. He got beat up by one individual. Kevin Owens, he's been teasing the past few weeks about him potentially turning on Cody Rhodes, and Kevin Owens has that rap. He has that reputation of turning his back on his friends, his close friends. And we go back in history, Sami Zayn, Chris Jericho, The New Day, pretty much everyone. Kevin Owens has turned on them all. But what I did not expect is the way that Kevin Owens did it was in the parking lot of the arena, where it wasn't even televised. It wasn't on the show. It was just cell phone recordings from the fans. And that's how we saw this turn, this huge turn of events. We saw it on the internet, which I thought was really interesting. So now we got to heel Kevin Owens, right? And I'm assuming this is something that's going to have to be addressed either not Monday, because they're on SmackDown, right? So it's going to have to go down on SmackDown. What did you think about seeing Kevin Owens finally snap on Cody Rhodes? And yeah, like, what were your thoughts the way that they did this?
Let's see. First off, let me read a couple of comments here. Dylan from Long Island Wrestling Podcast, thank you for joining. Dylan's a great guy. Chrissy, Richi Mars is goated. Thank you, Chrissy. You don't need to gas me up any further. But yeah, with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes, I liked how this turn was done, just because with the whole entire thing that was building up to, you didn't get any like legitimate post from like a WWE like social media site. It wasn't posted on their Twitter, wasn't posted on their Instagram, YouTube, anything like that. It was completely third party, independent TikTok like accounts that were recording this. And I think that's a smart hook to get the word out there without blatantly saying, hey, this is an angle for a television show. We know it's an angle for a television show. But with The Rock coming out at the end of Bad Blood, something tells me he's not going to come on like SmackDown, because it's The Rock, it's a schedule. And you need that hook for that show. What other hook can it be? You have this Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes story that's been happening for a while. And now it's like full-fledged, all right, here we go. This is it. Now we're kind of like in this story. Now it's leaving more questions than answers, because I think it's even more effective that there hasn't been a lot of people commenting on it. I think Triple H tweeted out saying that they're handling the matter like in storyline, so it kind of adds like a little bit more realness to it, I guess, where it's like, hey, this actually happened. WWE's not acknowledging it until we get to SmackDown. And I think that's a good hook for the show.
Definitely. And they needed something new, something fresh. Cause I don't know about you, Richie, but the last few weeks of Friday Night SmackDown feels like, oh man, like something's missing. Like Monday Night Raw has definitely been taking that spot over as being the A show. I've been saying that time and time again. SmackDown is definitely the B show. Is that just me, or do you still think like SmackDown right now is still the better show between the two?
It's all subjective, like all wrestling is. I think Raw's been the most consistent out of the two major brands. I think NXT's been the most consistent if you want to go by week to week television standards of just story and the mixture of story and in ring action. With SmackDown, they've been doing a lot of setup because if you notice, since Cody Rhodes won, you're establishing these relationships and friendships with Kevin Owens, with Randy Orton, and of course he's like in that bloodline thing, and then Roman's back, and now Roman and Jimmy are back, and now it kind of seems like everything that they were building up in post WrestleMania is now coming to a head right here because with Roman, he's going to be on every SmackDown until the Survivor Series build. So that's going to lead some more momentum. So it doesn't feel like everything's kind of standing in place. But the
Yeah.
benefit of the first half of the year kind of being slow on SmackDown is that you had time to establish the relationship between Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and also Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and Randy Orton. So now you have Randy Orton in this scenario who can kind of play this like peacekeeper slash instigator role in kind of like needling both ends of the fire, both ends of the stick, and having Cody and Kevin get each other until we get that Randy Orton turn that people really are looking for. So I really do think that like it's a benefit for SmackDown. I think Cody being away from the bloodline is a benefit, not only that, but to the bloodline story itself. And then you just kind of go on from there.
Yeah, and there was a fan that actually sent Randy Orton a DM and was like, I don't know if this was a real screenshot or not, but I thought it was hilarious. They were like, "Hey, I don't know if you're aware, but your friends are got into an altercation after the show," and Randy Orton responded to the fan allegedly with a laughing emoji, which I thought if that was really Randy Orton and he finds all this funny, um it's gonna be interesting how Randy really reacts on Friday Night SmackDown over this because Kevin Owens, he just had a title shot at Cody Rhodes, and where what PLE was that? Was it
Bash in Berlin.
Bash in Berlin? Thank you. And this was when they were still friends, so Kevin Owens wasn't sure if he can pull the trigger on Cody and get finish the job because there was still some um level of respect there that Kevin Owens had for Cody Rhodes, which actually ended up causing Kevin Owens the match and Cody Rhodes retained. So now things are different. Now Kevin Owens, he's full blown heel after what we saw yesterday that went down at the parking lot. So do you see Kevin Owens getting a rematch and maybe actually having a chance at becoming champion?
Well, the one of the big news is that happened over the past couple weeks was Kevin Owens' contract is expiring. So I
Mhm.
think they're kind of using Kevin Owens as much as they are now, just to kind of center in and add that more mystique for Kevin Owens. Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? While also pushing the storyline forward. I do see Cody and Kevin locking it up in the future. I could see it being another like main event, but with Crown Jewel, as we're probably going to get to, being champion versus champion, I'm not sure where that's going to really fit. I could see it happening on a SmackDown. I could see it happening on a Survivor Series. But as far as Cody and Kevin, yeah, they're going to lock horns again, and it's going to be. I feel like Randy Orton is going to be a very integral part of that whole storyline himself because, as far as we know, he's cool with both Kevin, he's cool with Cody, and again, like I said, it's that fake peacekeeper instigating role that he's going. So I can't wait to see what happens with it. So I'm looking forward to it.
Let's talk about that next, Richie. I'm really glad you brought this up. The Crown Jewel Championship. What in the fuck? What are we doing here, Richie? Because let me get this straight. Triple H at Bad Blood, he presented a new belt, and he announced that it's going to be champion versus champion for both the men and the women's champion from both shows. And the winner of these two champions gets another championship, the Crown Jewel Championship. Is that right?
So it's pretty much going to be like that like boxing deal where it's like, oh, it's like an exhibition and somebody gets a title at the end. They're not going to carry it throughout the whole year, but it's kind of like a ceremonial thing, like the crown, or like how the King of the Ring title was in '94 that one year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those things where it's like it's a gimmick, it's a gimmick for the show. Like, it is what it is. It doesn't like offend me. It's like I know people were wanting more of the women's intercontinental or women's U.S. championships, and I do believe that is coming. But
Mm-hmm.
with Crown Jewel, if you want to make it like its own gimmick stuff, fine. Like honestly, I think Clash of the Champions would be a more apropos name since the champions are actually clashing against each other.
Mm-hmm.
But with it as like a gimmick, yeah, the title, not really crazy about it. It looks like the 24/7 title grew up and had like an evolutionary like Pokemon line.
Yeah, that thing is huge, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's
That
like
thing is huge.
again, it's just like it doesn't really offend me. Like, should be a fun exhibition. I'm looking forward to presumably maybe Cody and Gunther is looking
Mm-hmm.
like the direction, since they already have kind of a history if you go back to past Rumble. So there is a story that you kind of can play off of there. So again,
Yeah.
for me, it's like I don't look at it like, oh, this is really good or really bad. I'm just like, it's fine. Gives an excuse
Right.
for a title versus title match or
Shout out
champion
to
versus champion match.
Wrestle Rant. They're pleasing the Saudi fans. TKO. Um, that's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, man, like Saudi Arabia is just throwing money at the WWE like crazy, and this probably that's what they want. They're like, hey, we're gonna give you all this money, but you got to do something for us. You got to create a whole championship just for us. It's just
Mhm.
it's business. The WWE, they're just making a whole bunch of money with this. Um, Saudi Arabia, they can now say, hey, we have a crown jewel championship that will get defended in Saudi Arabia only, because I'm assuming it's like a 1 year thing. So I'm pretty sure that's when it's gonna get
It, it,
defended.
it's going to be like a yearly thing. Like every year is going to have a different champion, like King of the Ring. Like every year is going to be a different champion. It's not necessarily going to be the person who won King of the Ring last year is going to defend their title. It's just going to be whoever the champions are at the time.
Mm,
That's who's going to compete for the title. Just think of it as just like this novelty, where it's just like people are going to be either really into it or really not. And I know a lot of people aren't really big on the whole two world champions to begin with kind of deal. So again, it's
yeah.
one of those gimmicks that they're doing to make it seem like a big deal, and it's up to the fans whether it's a big deal or not. And for me, I'm just like, is what it is. It doesn't really affect me one way or the other. Like, it seems like they're trying to put more like stake into Crown Jewel.
Yeah.
Trying to make because I know for a while they were treating like those pay-per-views as like non-canon for the most part. But now it's like, all right, we're trying to make it like storyline, like interweaved, and it is what it is. Well, I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't know what to think about that either. I was just like, all right. Well, cool. Right on. Now that we've covered everything that happened before and after the show, let's actually talk about the actual show. Um, I'm gonna start with the first match, the Hell in a Cell match. Drew McIntyre and CM Punk went to absolute war. These two beat the crap out of each other, and there were bleeding gushers left and right. They used everything that they could in that was at their reach. There was a toolbox in there. There was tables. They pulled out stuff from the toolbox, wrenches. Um, it was it was a battle. These two men, Drew and CM Punk, they put on a clinic. They went all out, and it was absolutely amazing. the gushers though, the amount of blood that was in this match was crazy to me, and I'm pretty sure, and Richie Mars, correct me if I'm wrong, those were done the hard way. The We saw
The
Drew McIntyre's.
the Drew one was the hard way, because he got 16 staples. Unless he had
Mhm.
like a machete in his pocket, I think it was done the hard way with that, because you could see, like, he posted video. It's like right across like his hairline. So
Mhm.
I think that for sure was hard way. I think Punk might have bladed. That's probably my opinion.
Interesting, but regardless of that, man, the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, both of these men, they promised us blood. First of all, they promised a lot of things. I went into this match with high expectations. I'm like, what are these guys gonna do? Like, because I mean, there's really no limits in these types of matches and Hell in a Cell matches when it's a feud as big as Drew and CM Punk. And I was just really interested to see how this was going to go down. And I don't know about you, Richie, but I was not disappointed. I thought this match was amazing. But tell me what you thought about this match once it was all said and done.
I think they delivered. They delivered on every promise, and they also exceeded expectations. I thought they did some spots that you don't really see in Hell in a Cell, like the suplex through the table. They did the one that made me cringe the most was that Claymore miss where Drew hit his tailbone on the steps, and I like
Mm,
the adverse of expectations where Drew picked up the velvet bag, which is usually a sign of thumbtacks, but it was just like the beads from like friendship bracelets, which I thought kind of tied everything together, because that was a big heavy criticism throughout the entire feud, that they were feuding over a bracelet. And I thought that was a smart way to kind of call back with Drew trying to get the more personal route, well, again with CM Punk, but that kind of backfired as opposed to what happened at SummerSlam. And I thought the finish was great. I always like it when finishers are kind of switched up a little bit to have some little differences, like when Punk wrapped the chain around his knee, so the go to sleep would actually have some finality into it. And both guys came out looking great. Punk sold the effects of Hell in a Cell, with the oxygen mask and just trying to breathe. And Drew, I don't think he loses anything from this as well. This is honestly probably Drew McIntyre's best feud. You can make that case. Absolutely.
yeah,
It definitely
for sure.
shows like a different part of his personality. I think Drew's had the best character development within the character year for WWE superstars.
Mhm.
And again, I think if this is the way they want to resurrect the former glory of Hell in a Cell, this is exactly what you do.
That's interesting. I didn't think about it like that. Cause yeah, a lot of people were wondering, like, hey, what happened to that PLE, the Hell in a Cell PLE? What happened to the red cage? How come the cage isn't red anymore? But yeah, we haven't seen a Hell in a Cell match in quite a while. I can't even think of the last one that we seen, but yes, this Hell in a Cell match that we saw at Bad Blood, it was, man, I can't like over overly state like how I thought it was really great, but CM Punk actually ended up winning this match. In my opinion, the right person won. Um, and now I think it's time for CM Punk to go and try to get some gold, maybe. And I think that's one of the big reasons why I was hoping CM Punk was going to win this match. But what about Drew? Now, Drew McIntyre, you're right. He doesn't lose anything because he's coming out. He's leaving this feud or coming out of this feud a completely different performer in the mic and in the ring. He found himself. Drew McIntyre has found himself. But with that being said, what do you think is next for Drew McIntyre? Where do we go from here with him?
It's funny, I actually posted a video about this this exact topic before it came on. I think Drew, like, you have a couple of different options. It seems like Drew has faced everybody on the Raw roster 10 times over. So maybe a fresh start is needed. Maybe you go to SmackDown, do like a
Mhm.
little trade action, because if you remember, Adam Pierce had A-Town Down Under lent to him on Raw, and there's still a favor to be done. So perhaps that's the favor. I know that's not very much of an even trade, but you could still like even do a trade there as well. And another thing is at the beginning of the year, the commentators are going to switch. You know, it's going to be Michael Cole and Pat on Raw. It's going to be Barrett, Corey, and Tess on SmackDown. And we had a little tease of it already with Drew and Wade Barrett. You know, you could have that as the WrestleMania match. And another thing you can do is there's still unfinished business between Sami Zayn and Drew McIntyre from earlier in the year. Now, it's my belief that I think that was going to be the WrestleMania main event, WrestleMania match for Drew McIntyre if it wasn't for the audibles that were called and the CM Punk injury going down how it did. And it was going to be Drew and Sami because they still had that issue. And the whole story was Sami trying to prove himself as a main eventer. And Drew McIntyre saying to Sami, "You're not a main eventer." And Sami even said he had to put the pause button on Drew for a while. Well, I see after this episode of Raw between Gunther and Sami, I don't think Sami's going to win. And then you could kind of have Drew McIntyre come back whenever he's ready, whether it's at the end of this year, early next year. And then you could restart that issue again. And you could just kind of tie up that loose end.
Yeah. And also, if Drew McIntyre were to go to SmackDown, he also has unfinished business with the Bloodline as well, as do, you know, many people. But I would definitely be down to see, Drew McIntyre on Friday, just to make SmackDown a little bit more interesting. So definitely hoping for Drew McIntyre to make that jump, but we will see what happens with Drew McIntyre. CM Punk, he's going for gold, right?
Yeah, I think that's what you do. I say I don't see Punk going to Crown Jewel. I wonder why, but I see him taking that build off, and then night after, that's when we return, and that's when you start the Gunther versus CM Punk build.
Right on. And just to switch gears here, we're going to talk about Bayley versus Nia Jax. This is one of the matches that the only thing that I was hoping for was a cash-in. I wanted to see the cash-in. It's Tiffy time, Richie. It's time to put the belt on Tiffy, but it did not happen. Nia Jax retained after another hard battle by Bayley. Bayley was mostly fighting underneath versus a much bigger Nia Jax. And I don't think anyone really expected Bayley to come out the winner out of this, unfortunately. I hate to say it. I love Bayley, but man, Nia Jax, she's just a freak of nature. She's an absolute powerhouse. And regardless of how experienced Bayley is and, you know, great wrestler, Nia Jax is she's just impressively just dominant right now. She's on one hell of a run. Tiffy comes out. We think we're going to get the cash in, and Nia Jax does the Undertaker sit up. What are you doing, girl? You better not cash in on me. But I think it's coming. Obviously, she has to cash in. We don't know when that's going to be, but what did you think about Tiffy and, the outcome of this match? Nia Jax is still the women's champion.
You know, this match was put in a tough spot because one, you're trying to follow the Hell in a Cell match. Number two, I think out of the 5 matches that were on this PLE, I think this was probably everyone's 5th most looking forward to match on the show. So like it already is kind of behind the 8 ball, and I give them credit. You know, they tried to do some new things, even if they didn't really pan out, like Nia Jax trying to do a Hurricane Rana. And I thought there were some creative spots like the Bayley head kick, which caused Nia to fall on the referee. I thought that was pretty creative. And I thought that was Bayley's best roast plan. I'm not even a big fan of that finisher, but it was, I thought that one looked good. I thought them doing each other's signature moves, like Nia did the Bayley to belly, then you had Bayley doing the Samoan drop. So I thought that was pretty cool. I didn't really expect the cash in. I thought this was going to be another kind of tease of a cash in. And with Tiffany Stratton, it's going to, this is my prediction, I think she's going to cash in because they're building up Nia for something. But what is that they're building up? Not just for the cash in, but since she was, queen of the ring, Queen Nia, we have a certain queen that's on her way back. So I think we're getting queen versus queen down the line. And then when that match happens, that's when you have the cash in. And that's when you have that full-on match, and then you could do possibly a triple threat, or you could do Tiffy versus Charlotte, Tiffy versus Nia, and then it makes that moment even bigger. Because to be honest, if Tiffany Stratton were to cash in here, yeah, it'd be a cool moment. But as in most Money in the Bank cash-ins, usually like they're not elevated from the cash in at all. They'll get a championship run, but the person themselves isn't elevated. And I feel like in order to make a cash in mean something, you have to also elevate that talent along with it. Don't put the championship on them just for a cheap reaction or opportunity that's going to be faded within the next couple weeks. You want to make sure that person is ready and set in stone. And with Tiffany Stratton, you could still play this storyline with Nia and this whole storyline in general with Nia and Bayley. It's the case of the people in the match, that's not their most interesting storyline. Like Nia's most interesting storyline is with Tiffany so far, and Bayley's most interesting storyline is Naomi, because for the past couple weeks, Naomi and Bayley, they're friends, but it seems like Naomi's kind of like a little bit tired of Bayley kind of getting the shine over. And then you have Bayley and Bianca's issues that haven't been resolved since, Bayley had damage control. So it's little stories like that that are more interesting than the story that's going on in the match, because I don't think anybody thought Bayley was going to regain the championship. So it was just one of those, I hate to say it, like one of those filler kind of championship matches where it's like, get the defense under the belt, get the rematch under the belt, and then we're off to the next storyline for both of them. But again, tough position for both of them to be in. There was some clunky stuff, but again, it's going to happen, is what it is. I applaud them for trying stuff new, but sometimes it doesn't work out, but it's better to try than not try at all.
Yeah, and who's to say, like, just because you have the briefcase, just because you are Money in the Bank, that doesn't always mean that you will become champion, as we've seen it before with Baron Corbin. So, I mean, there's still a small percentage, but there's still a chance that Tiffany, if she does try to cash in on Nia Jax, whenever that is, man, she better make sure that Nia Jax is, out for the count for sure. But I would definitely be down to see Charlotte, versus Nia, or even like Charlotte versus Tiffy. Do we know? I haven't seen anything about Charlotte coming back anytime soon. Has there been any word on that yet? Any updates on Charlotte?
I think the last update I read was that there's no plans for Charlotte until 2025. So
Okay.
take that as you will. Maybe a Rumble return, maybe like a day one episode of Raw. But she tore her, I think it was ACL. She tore her knee up pretty bad in December, and we're in October now. So the window hypothetically would be closed by now, So I think she's like ready to go. It's all about just trying to introduce her in the right creative way. And I'd rather them to have a plan for the person than just kind of usher them out on TV without any regard for what they're doing next and just book week to week. So as far as I'm concerned, plan it out, see what you want to do with it, and then go on from there.
And knowing Charlotte Flair, as soon as she gets back, you already know she's going to get in that title picture right away.
She has something more valuable than Money in the Bank, and that's Charlotte in the Bank. Charlotte comes in, she gets the title, and then that's what you got to do.
Yeah. No, hold on, Tiffany. No, you don't cash in. I am cashing in my Charlotte Flair name for the title shot. Nah. Let's stick to the women's division. We're gonna get out of order, but it's all good because the Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley match was so entertaining to me.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see Dominic Mysterio in the shark cage about 15, 20 feet in the air. And the WWE, since Dominic Mysterio was a kid, they were trying to hang him on something, put him on something for some type of match, and they finally did it at Bad Blood. And I thought that, man, when he opened up that cage and he like slowly rolled out, my heart literally dropped, because I'm like, man, that's going to be a hard bump to take. But what I was not expecting was, his foot was tied. So he was kind of hanging there from a piñata, like a piñata. It's funny that he also happens to be Mexican, but Rhea Ripley went off with the kendo stick while Dominic was hanging from his foot in the mid-air. And then we get Raquel Rodriguez or Raquel Gonzalez. Which one is she now? I don't even remember.
Rodriguez.
Okay, because I'm pretty sure Triple H called her Raquel Gonzalez in the press conference.
Yeah, when she got called up in that 2022 era of WWE, they switched her name from Gonzalez to Rodriguez.
Oh, okay, so maybe Triple H didn't get the memo then. But she's back. She has joined forces with Liv Morgan, which means technically Raquel Rodriguez is part of the Judgment Day now.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow, okay. Liv Morgan retained because I believe the match was called off due to disqualification when Raquel Rodriguez interfered. So Liv Morgan got to keep the championship. The Liv Morgan Revenge Tour continues. Rhea Ripley was not able to get her precious title back. She lost her man. She lost her title. Poor Rhea Ripley. What were your thoughts on this match, Richie? And man, how about Raquel Rodriguez? I'm pretty psyched that she's back.
I will applaud WWE for doing not one but two advertisements in this match. One being the I think they dubbed it the Lucha Lowrider, where you could get from Mattel, and then the other one being the Dominic Mysterio toilet paper, which they are selling for $13 a roll on WWE Shop. So I applaud them with that.
Shout out to No So Podcast, my two guys. What's up?
Yeah,
Sorry,
what's going on, Ryan? So pretty much with all that going on, this match is always going to be a double-edged sword, because with the like a gimmick like being suspended from like a cage or anything like that, that's always going to be what everyone's going to divert their attention to. You know, as entertaining as that is, pretty much anything that's happening in the ring isn't going to mean as much in the meantime. You know, and there's going to be a lot of comedic spots, especially with Dominic Mysterio being afraid of heights and not like being locked up. It's going to have kind of an adverse effect. You know, not saying the work that the women did was bad in any way, shape, or form. I think they did the best that they could, considering the situation. But the Dominic's always going to be like that distraction, because again, it's not something we see every day, like somebody that's hanging up from a cage in the ceiling. I thought the finish didn't really come out well. It's like one of those things where it's like it's better to it looks good on paper, but when in execution, it could have been a lot cleaner. And I thought there was a lot of things that were
are you talking about like the referee? Because Raquel Rodriguez walked right past the referee, and the referee just like pretended like he didn't see anything.
Yeah, that's the thing. If like hindsight being 2020, like Rhea would probably be a little bit more like closer towards the ring, probably around ringside, coming back to Liv as the referee's tending to Dom. That's when Raquel does the attack, hits the Tejana bomb, and then covers Liv. Because again, that was probably going to be the finish, was, you know, Liv covering Rhea and winning thanks to the assist of Raquel. So that was probably where it was going. But again, it's one of those things where it just came off clunky, and you know, it's unfortunate because Raquel has been like, she's been battling. I don't know the proper term.
Yeah, I forgot.
But it was like it was like a very sensitive like skin condition, you know, that causes her to break out in hives. So she's been fighting that, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like I saw like a tweet where it's like someone like was like clowning on her for that. But again, like unfortunately, like things happen. Some like maybe so she got a wrong cue, or maybe she was too excited, like, you know, first time back in a while. But what I do like about this, like within storyline, it does make sense. Liv and Raquel were tag champions. Rhea took out Liv during that tag title reign, which caused them to vacate the championships. And again, I always like it when WWE or any storyline whatsoever just kind of ties into those like past relationships. And then it's like, oh, that makes sense, because not only is it like an Easter egg for older fans, but for newer fans, now they're wondering, it's like, oh, what is this Raquel Liv partnership? And then they could go back and they could see like the genesis of it. So I think it was great. I thought it was the right move. One, gets Raquel something different to do. Two, gives Rhea something to overcome while Liv is dealing with the, the proposed champion versus champion crown jewel match. So I thought it did its job. Didn't come off cleanly, but again, it's a goofy gimmick to begin with. So they're gonna they did the best they could.
What goofy gimmick or what did you mean by that? The cage?
Yeah, the cage,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Man, I'm really psyched about what's next to come when it comes to the Judgment Day and, Liv Morgan. Hell, man, I never thought I'd ever say that, I'm actually looking forward to something Liv Morgan is doing. Raquel Rodriguez, she's a heel now, so she's not going to be the smiling, kissing babies baby face that she was before she left on her hiatus. And now she's back. She's wearing black. She's mean. She's going to be vicious, and that's a Raquel Rodriguez that I think is going to get a lot more attention moving forward.
That seems to be a trope, you know what I mean? You turn heel, you're just gonna wear like very dark clothing. That's that's the rule. That's the rule when you're a heel.
Yeah, but like it's going to be a big change compared to like what she was just, just wearing all these colors before, and extra all this makeup, and so she was super baby face. Like they were really trying hard to make her this what's the term called, the wrestling term, white meat baby face, just like super nice and smiley, and it's just like I don't know about that, but
well, it's also tougher because she's around 6 foot, I think. So it's already tough making somebody a baby face like that when you're towering over majority of the roster, let alone just like the heel roster in general. So it's going to be a tough sell to begin with. Now that she's in a heel, it's easier for not only her and believable for her to take control, but also for other people to fight up from underneath. So I think it's a good move. It, like you said, freshens up Raquel while also giving new combinations of matches as well.
And speaking of the Judgment Day were involved in another match on this PLE. And Judgment Day, they just had their hands all over this pay-per-view, it seemed like, because Damian Priest faced Finn Bálor, who I'm pretty sure Finn Bálor right now is technically the leader of Judgment Day. And another great match. Damian Priest, he came out successful in this. He defeated Finn Bálor. But I thought for a second Finn Bálor coming out the winner out of this would have, I guess, established Finn Bálor as like a serious leader of a faction of the Judgment Day. So I was a little confused about that. I thought Finn Bálor was actually going to win, but Damian Priest, he came out on top. What's next? What do you think is going to happen with Damian Priest? And what did you think about this match overall?
I thought Priest coming out the winner was the right call if you're going to have Rhea not be successful in the one after that. You know, the Terror Twins having like a, within the night, like a 50-50 like result, so to speak. Even though Rhea technically won hers, she wasn't successful winning the championship. But with Priest, he's still being established as a, I guess, main fixture on television, on Raw. And he got a lot of criticism for his world championship run for not being or not feeling like a main event talent. So now is the time where you start establishing Damian Priest as his own solo guy. And compared to Finn Bálor, he hasn't really had many shots of being one-on-one successful with pay-per-views. Because if you remember, his world championship runs have been marred by interference and stuff. This match established that Damian Priest can do stuff on his own when the odds are against him, which is what you want to do for a babyface. And that being said, this isn't going to be the first time that Damian Priest and Finn Bálor are going to face off. I assume there's going to be a lot more matches. It felt kind of like a Raw match in certain points where it's like they're saving for other matches down the line. I had a very similar feeling during the SummerSlam match with Punk and McIntyre, where it's like, all right, we're just kind of like this is an appetizer to the main course that's going to happen on a little bit later. And I thought Finn did a great job of making Damian look good. I thought Finn looked great in the match as well. I believe I did a show with the No-So guys yesterday. And one of them, Rossi, said that Finn Balor's last win, I think, was he only had one singles win this year against Dragon Lee. And then his last singles win before that was in September of last year.
Wow.
It's one of those things where it's like WWE doesn't go on like a record kind of deal. So it's like they go more for story based. And like for people, it's like, oh, how are we supposed to take Finn Balor seriously as a singles competitor or something? It's like Finn Balor is kind of like in that AJ position where it's like you could just kind of plop him anywhere and then people are going to accept him in that role. Dolph was in that role for a little bit. But yeah, it's like I'm not really concerned with Finn. I think Damian needed more just to help establish credence that he is now a fixture on Raw. And I predict that we're going to have another Balor Priest match in the near future.
Mhm.
So again, thought it was a fine match, a good part one. Uh, it's not supposed to make the Judgment Day look strong because if you look at their members, they don't look like the most intimidating bunch. So it's like, yeah, of course it's not going to do. You got to at least make Damian Priest seem very competitive because for the first bulk of the year, he wasn't really gaining victories as a babyface should. So this is a good first mark
Mhm.
of him being a babyface. So I thought it was fine.
Shout out to Roman, everything with Roman. Finn Balor needs to go solo. And shout out to Noso, more like Pin Balor. Thanks, guys, for your comments.
I see what he did there.
um, man, so Damian Priest, he was in the press conference too. And he was asked, well, are you gonna now that you defeated Finn Balor, are you done with the Judgment Day and are you gonna go for gold? And Damian Priest pretty much made it sound like he's not done with the Judgment Day. So I think you're right about this just being the first match, and we're probably going to be seeing these two go at it again, Damian Priest and Finn Balor. So we have that to look forward to. But moving on to the main event, Richie, we had Roman and Cody, this new tag team, the tag team that we never thought we would ever see. They defeated the Bloodline 2.0, which is Solo Sikoa and Jacob Fatu. Roman Reigns, man, we have not seen Roman Reigns in action and feels like forever, but Roman Reigns came out. He's looking in like the best shape ever, I think. Roman Reigns, he looked like he slimmed down a little bit. And man, he's looking like $1,000,000. The match, they took their time with the match. They were really milking the crowd. The crowd was really taking in that moment of seeing Roman and Cody side by side in the ring, about to throw hands. And we got two major returns. Jimmy finally came back. The fans have been asking for it. We've been waiting for it. When is Jimmy going to come back? Every SmackDown, every time we saw the Bloodline, we want we want to see Jimmy come back. And it was weird how it happened because the announcers Michael Cole and Corey Graves they saw someone come out wearing a hoodie and a bandana, but because their table was destroyed earlier in a table spot, they didn't have the monitor, so they didn't really call it. So I'm watching this and I'm thinking, who is this guy? Like, who did they bring in this time? Like, I feel like at this point it could have been anyone. Who is this guy that's showing up? Is it another? Did they add another member to the new bloodline? Is it? I was thinking, call me crazy, but I was thinking Zilla or Hakaleu or one of those guys. But no, it was Jimmy Uso, and he attacked Tongaloa and Tamatanga to help the OTC Roman Reigns, and he aligned himself with his cousin Roman again. So Jimmy Uso is back, and I know this match got a lot of there's a lot of mixed reviews about this match. But what did you think about this main event?
Like most like Roman matches, especially Roman tag matches, it's going to be very plotting. I'm surprised they took heat on Roman for the first half. Like that surprised me. I thought it was just going to be Cody getting beat up and then Roman, makes the Superman play. But they really did balance out both Cody and Roman, which was the right thing to do because, Roman's already like arguably the main guy in WWE and Cody, they're trying to make also the main guy. And it was like they're trying to make, their own Superman Batman team up, their own version of the Mega Powers. And I think they did a great job here. I thought Jacob was very effective. Solo was there too. No, I'm just kidding. Solo's doing fine in his job. It's just everybody is just so much more advanced that I feel like even though if Solo like performs great, it's going to be compared to, again, three of arguably the top guys in the industry, and Jacob is well on his way being a future top guy in the company. And I thought, like, I thought there were going to be a little bit more teases between Cody and Roman not trusting each other than the beginning, but no, bell to bell. They worked as a cohesive unit, which surprised me. I think Cody's like, a little like salute to Roman, like having his back by taking out Jacob through the table was really nice. And then Jimmy coming back. And this is why I say, like, patience is a virtue sometimes in WWE, because everyone's been asking for Jimmy, just bottling up. They're shaking like, the soda can of just like, we want Jimmy. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna release it when the time's right. And then boom, then you get that big pop. Because hypothetically, if Jimmy were to come back in a SmackDown, then it would have been forgotten about a couple weeks ago. You know what I mean? But now that's Bad Blood. He's now one of the main talking points of the show, which is like, if you were to say a couple months ago, would Jimmy Uso be a talking point in WWE television, let alone a PLE? You wouldn't think so, just because Jimmy's track record of him just consistently losing. But now that he took all that time off and now he's back, now he feels like a fresh new coat of paint. And now you see Jimmy Uso from down here all the way to up here now. Which is good, which is a good perception kind of deal. And even like a character moment with Jimmy saying like, no, we got to help like Cody, and then Roman comes back, and then that was all fine and good. I thought the match was well paced. It's either you're going to like it or you're not going to like it. Some people like the plotting style. Some people don't mind, like some people do mind it because it's not enough action. I find it like a very like good art wise, where it's like you could get a giant reaction by doing little to nothing. And just the crowd control that not only Roman has, but Cody has, it's very impressive to see that we actually live in a time where we have not one, but two top baby faces in WWE. The fact that there's a legitimate argument you can make for either side is astounding, nowadays, where it's like before it was just Cena, and there's nobody close who's in that upper echelon. But now, we not only have that, but we also have people who aren't considered main eventers or on the top of the card, like Jimmy Uso and Jey Uso and LA Knight, that are actually getting loud reactions as well. So all this waiting and patience is a virtue is paying off in strides. Whether people think the week-to-week television could be plotting, which it could be, but that's what you have to do with character building. It's little bits and pieces right here, and then when you get to moments like this at Bad Blood, that's when it all pays off with the character building.
Speaking of characters and building characters, one of the biggest characters in pro wrestling came back after the match, also The Rock, and he came out, his music hits, fans went crazy, and he left, and that was it. The interesting part about that, though, is the bloodline, Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, Tongaloa, they were making their way out of the ring, like through the crowd. So they were probably like in the midsection, far away from the ring. But there's fan footage going around the internet about what Solo Sikoa was saying when The Rock was out there, the few minutes that he was out there, the few seconds, I should say, where Solo Sikoa said, "This is all part of the plan." And this is what Solo Sikoa said during The Rock's appearance. So what does this all mean? Like, there's so many things happening here with Jimmy coming back and, lining himself up with Roman Reigns again. Then The Rock shows up and, Solo saying all these things around people clearly because he knows that they're going to hear it. So Solo wants the people to know that this is all part of the plan. But what's the plan? Richie, what do you think is happening here?
Well, The Rock also posted a video saying that the final boss would has thoughts about everything, but he will only let us know on the final boss's time. It's obvious that The Rock doesn't like Cody. It's obvious that the last person The Rock teamed with was Roman. So there's a lot of hidden layers under that, They could pull the bait and switch where The Rock is not very happy with Solo because Solo anointed himself as tribal chief. And then you pull the swerve of Rock turning on Roman if they want to go in that direction. And I think the whole buildup for The Rock and this is the kind of the start where it's like usually the fall. This is where like it's kind of a lull until WrestleMania season where it's just like, all right, let's kind of hurry up and let's go to WrestleMania. But now with The Rock appearing, it kind of throws some wrenches into the plan of like what's going on, what's going to happen. And I think this is the time where I said before, where it's like with Roman being on every SmackDown from here on out until Survivor Series, you're going to see some direction and development on what's going to happen. And with The Rock, you know, I think we're going to see the next level version of the final boss character. And it's going to be pretty interesting to see what side of the coin he's going to fall on. And I think it's really going to be really cool to see whether he's going to go for Cody first, whether he's going to go for Roman, maybe both. You know, I'm not a big triple threat guy, but we'll see what happens. Maybe it's a night one, night two scenario. Again, it's not my company. I don't work there. They could figure that themselves, and I'll see if it's enjoyable or not.
Right on. Well, thanks, Richie, for coming on to the show. Like always, it's a pleasure. Thank you for coming back, and hopefully you come back once again sooner than later.
Mhm.
Before we get out of here, Richie, tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, it's going to be at Retold Richi Mars on Instagram and TikTok. I post content every day on TikTok, usually 3 videos a day on the current wrestling landscape or things that I find interesting. Also, every Tuesday on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, I have Wrestling Retold and Relive with Richi Mars. It's my long form podcast where I usually have a guest come on every week, or it's just myself. And they pick a topic, I research it, and then we talk about it for an hour, just talking as fans. It's not like a big debate kind of deal. It's more of just like two fans like discussing a time period in wrestling that's fun, which is what wrestling should be. It should be fun. We don't need to be stressed out about it. It's fun to speculate. It's always fun to talk about these stories. Like, again, even if we talk about wrestling seriously, we're having fun at the end of the day. And watching television, it's not a chore for me. You know, if people like something that I don't, I'm not here to judge. You know, it's like, you like that? Cool. You know, it's like, I like my wrestling, you like your wrestling, and then we can find some common ground in this Venn diagram of professional wrestling. So anyway, that's pretty much where you could catch me, and I hope to see you there, and hopefully, Edgar, you could be on a future episode.
Yeah, I would love to. Definitely just say when. Right
Sounds
on,
good,
Richie.
man.
Thank you so much once again. My name is Edgar. I'm the host of Snug Wrestling. Thank you guys for the comments, the likes, the follows, listening, and hanging out with us, and we will talk soon. Awesome, Richie.